Picture this. You've been planning your dream wedding for months, putting your heart and soul into every detail. Then, on the most important day of your life, the people you love the most, the people who are supposed to be there for you, leave you. That is what happened to me. The people I thought would always be there for me, my parents, chose not to come to my wedding. And what was their reason? They said it was a small thing for someone at the bottom. My name is Isabella Reed, and I want to tell you how this heartbreak and rejection changed me completely. It's the story of how I went from feeling like I didn't matter to my family to finding my self-worth and the strength I never knew I had. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, in a family that cared a lot about how things looked. My parents thought that everything had to be perfect. They cared more about how the world saw us than about really getting to know each other as a family. Our house was spotless, the lawn was perfectly cut, and every holiday card showed us in matching clothes with big, happy smiles. We were the perfect family for everyone else. But things were far from perfect behind those perfect smiles. The truth was that I'd been invisible for as long as I could remember. Cheryl, my older sister, was the star of the family. She was everything my parents wanted. She was smart, charming, and always on the right path to do great things. My parents talked about her future all the time. They said she was going to be a lawyer and couldn't stop bragging about how smart she was. What about me? I was the one who didn't talk much. I loved art, like drawing, painting, and coming up with new ideas, but none of that fit their idea of success. I still remember the first time I tried to show my dad one of my drawings. I had spent days working on it, carefully planning out every line and color. I was so excited to get his approval that I couldn't wait. But when I showed it to him, he hardly looked at it. He muttered a half-hearted, "That's nice, Isabella," then went back to talking about Cheryl's most recent successes. That moment, though small, made me realize that I would never be the one they praised. Cheryl got everything, the new laptop, the praise, and the awards. And what about me? I got sketch pads that other people had used, and when I won my first art contest at school, my mom didn't even say anything. She was proud to hang Cheryl's medals on the wall instead. It felt like my successes didn't mean anything. I thought that if I worked harder, they might notice me. But the more I tried, the less they paid attention to me. Cheryl was the perfect child by the time she got to high school, but I was always the one who fell short. I remember her graduation party, which everyone in the neighborhood was invited to. My parents were so proud of Cheryl's latest success that they couldn't stop smiling. I was standing alone in the corner, holding a certificate I had gotten for my art. They didn't even bother to ask about it. I tried to tell them that I had been accepted into a local art program, but they said the same thing they always do. "That's nice, but don't you want to do something more useful like Cheryl?" I realized that I would never be their top priority or the person they really cared about. It was always Cheryl. But when I graduated from high school and got a scholarship to study graphic design, I thought, maybe, just maybe, this is the time they will finally see me. I sent them the invitation to my first art show because I wanted them to come and be proud of me. But they didn't show up on the day. They didn't even bother to go to something that was very important to me. They threw another party instead to celebrate Cheryl getting into law school. I was proud of myself as I stood in that gallery with my art all around me, but I also felt empty inside. I wanted them to like me, but they never did. I had learned not to expect anything from them by the time I went to college. I started to pay more attention to my art, my schoolwork, and making a life for myself. That's when I met Michael, when I started making friends. He helped me teach one of my classes. He saw something in me that I had long since stopped seeing in myself. Michael gave me the support, encouragement, and faith I needed to push myself even more. I also met Nicole, who is majoring in photography and has a sharp sense of humor and unwavering loyalty. She was always there for me, cheering me on when things got tough. She became my best friend. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged. It wasn't because my family approved. It was because I had found love and support in the people who really mattered. By the time I was a junior, I was working on several freelance projects at the same time, making logos and branding for small businesses. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. It felt great to be making something for myself. But even though I was doing well, I still sent my parents updates. I wanted them to care about what I was doing, and as expected, they didn't. The only time I heard from them was when my dad called to ask if I'd talked to Cheryl, who was doing well in law school. The same thing happened again. No one ever said anything about my accomplishments. Cheryl's were always more important. I got a big project in my last year of school. I was hired by a regional advertising agency to come up with a campaign. It was the chance I had been waiting for, a real taste of success in my career. I worked hard on the campaign and put my heart into every little thing. A local industry blog praised it when it came out, and my name was on it. I thought, this is it. Maybe my parents will finally notice me now. I sent them the link by email, excited, and hoping to hear from them with a word of congratulations. But my dad just said, "That's nice, but have you heard about Cheryl's internship?" I couldn't believe it. I had finally done something important, but they still wouldn't recognize me. But this time, I didn't let it hurt me as much. Something changed inside me, and I came to understand that I didn't need them to prove me right. I didn't need them to agree with my success. I was finally making something on my own, and I was proud of it. I knew I had to stop trying to get their approval at that point. Michael asked me to marry him a few months later. We started making plans for our wedding, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was making something that was mine. I made every detail, every invitation, and every piece of decor. I wanted it to be just right. But more than anything else, I wanted my family to be there. I wanted them to be there for me and finally see me for who I was. Of course I invited them. My dad texted me, "We'll try to make it," but the answer felt so empty. Cheryl was busy with her own engagement, and I started to worry they might not come at all. Then, just a few days before the wedding, I got the call. I heard my mom's voice on the other end. She didn't ask how the plans were coming along. She didn't seem excited. She said, "We're not coming, it's instead." For someone at the bottom, this is a small thing. We're going to Hawaii to celebrate Cheryl's getting engaged. The world fell out from under me. I was shaking and couldn't speak. Not a big deal for someone at the bottom? My own mother didn't care about my wedding. That morning, I remember standing in front of the mirror and fixing my dress. I felt like a stranger in my own skin. I was heartbroken. But then something clicked. I wasn't going to let them turn me down. Michael walked with me down that aisle. He was my partner and my rock. His parents treated me like I was their own child. It wasn't the day I'd hoped for, but I made it mine. And when I looked around at the people who cared about me and supported me, I realized something important. I didn't need my parents to see me. I'd found out how much I was worth. When I checked my phone after the wedding, that was the real gut punch. On social media, I saw a video of my parents, Cheryl, and her fiancé having fun and laughing in Hawaii. There wasn't a single word about my wedding. Instead, there was a video that showed exactly where their priorities were. I was heartbroken, but this time I didn't let it get to me. Instead, I made the choice to take charge. I wasn't going to keep asking them to love me. I was finished. A few days later, my dad called me again. He wanted me to help pay back a loan they said I owed them for my college tuition. I had already paid off all my debts, but he tried to make me feel bad about paying for Cheryl's wedding. I was angry, but I stayed calm. I called him out and told him I had paid off my loans years ago. And then, in the most freeing moment of my life, I threw his words back at him. I told them, "Don't bother me with small things." And I hung up the phone. I made rules for myself. I blocked their numbers, stopped answering their calls when they tried to trick me, and sent them an email telling them exactly how I felt. I was done being invisible. I wasn't going to let them keep treating me like I was nothing. After that, they were so quiet, it was deafening. But you know what? It was the peace I had been looking for. This was the first time in my life that I was living for myself. And I wasn't going to let anyone, not even my family, take that away from me. This taught me an important lesson. Family isn't just about blood. It's about caring for, loving, and supporting each other. Michael, Nicole, and even his parents were the people who really cared about me, and I found my family in them. That was enough for me. They were my family now. You're not the only one who has been turned down by the people who should love you the most. Please tell me in the comments how you were able to stay strong when you were rejected. If this story spoke to you, please like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. You are enough, no matter who sees it.